We're now on to special matters and announcements. The first item before us this evening is 2024 Resolution 305, repudiating racial and discriminatory covenants in Dane County property records. Supervisor Kemp will be reading this resolution.
Thank you, Chair Miles. Whereas Dane County values and promotes diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging in our community, and has made a commitment to identify, address, and repair discrimination based on race and ethnicity, national origin, religion, sex and gender, disability, sexual orientation, and gender identity within the community, and whereas racial covenants, also known as discriminatory covenants, were restrictions inserted into property deeds that prohibited purchase, rental, or occupancy of a residence based on race and other protected classes. They were used nationwide for most of the 20th century as an insidious tool to prevent non-whites, non-Christians, and other minorities at the time from buying or occupying land in America's growing suburbs and residential neighborhoods. And whereas although these covenants are illegal and they are no longer valid or enforceable, they can still be found in the land deeds of almost every American community, including Dane County. And whereas the legacy of those covenants remain in our committees in the form of entrenched segregation and lower rates of home ownership and generational wealth for people of color. And whereas in 2022, Dane County staff, volunteers, and a Boys and Girls Club intern initiated the Mapping Prejudice Project, now called Prejudice in Places, to identify and confirm discriminatory restrictive language in Dane County real estate records, and the project's preliminary search of digitized land records from 1937 through 1969 has yielded more than 900 land records that are now mapped. And whereas the old land records with racially restrictive covenants for various Dane County subdivisions and communities contain language that reads in part, only members of the Caucasian race shall use or occupy any dwelling on said plat, excepting that this covenant shall not prevent occupancy by domestic servants of a different race employed by an owner or tenants, and the premises shall not be sold or conveyed to any Jew, Italian, Negro, or a member of the yellow race. And whereas the aforementioned language is morally repugnant, immoral, and has no basis in law, having been declared unenforceable under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States in 1948 by the U.S. Supreme Court in Shelley versus Kramer, 334 U.S. 1, as well as outlawed by the Fair Housing Act in 1968. And whereas on March 22nd, 2024, Governor Evers signed the 2023 Wisconsin Act 210, declaring discriminatory restrictions in instruments that affect real property void and unenforceable, and allowing an owner of real property to discharge and release such a discriminatory restriction. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Dane County Board of Supervisors repudiates racial and discriminatory covenants as enduring signs of embedded and systemic racism and other discrimination in our society, and commits itself to continuing to redress the harmful legacy of these covenants in our community. Be it further resolved that the Dane County Board of Supervisors encourages residents of Dane County to further explore this issue through the Dane County Historical Society's traveling exhibit, The History of Racial Covenants in Dane County and Madison, which started in February to coincide with Black History Month and will be displayed over the next year in Dane County libraries. Be it finally resolved that a copy of this resolution will be conveyed to the Dane County State Legislative Delegation, Governor Tony Evers, and the Wisconsin Realtors Association. We're going to move for approval.
Okay, moved by Kemp, seconded by Kagea. All in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. The motion carries. The resolution is adopted. We do have a few folks with us to speak to this resolution. The first will be Todd Violante, Director of Planning and Development Department, to be followed by Rick Bernstein, Executive Director of the Dane County Historical Society. and finishing with Tiffany Malone, co-founder of Own It, Building Black Wealth. So Todd is online. Go ahead, Todd.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Chair Miles and members of the board for your work on this resolution and this opportunity to comment. And thank you, Rick, and Tiffany as well. I know they're there with you tonight for your leadership in the community on this topic. I'm very proud. Well, for those who don't know me, I'm Todd Violante. I'm the director of the Dane County Planning and Development Department. And I'm very proud of our department's role and work on the Prejudice in Places project, especially that of Aaron Krebs and Bridget Van Bellegem, who have led the work, and many others who contributed to it, without whom we would not have the information and in turn the understanding of how this practice existed within our community. I'm pleased that it was noted in the resolution that the project began in earnest with a Boys and Girls Club internship in the summer of 2022, which was a great and continues to be a great collaboration with our colleagues in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. Our staff then continued the work through 2024 to complete the data collection and mapping. In terms of their spatial extent in our community, we've now completed our look into the record from 1969 all the way back to 1900 now, identifying at least 1,031 records affecting 4,187 tax parcels. This historical practice was extensive and spanned multiple generations, and while these restrictions are no longer legal or enforceable as noted in the resolution, their existence in the record provides valuable insight into why we see some of the socioeconomic racial disparities today. Our hope as a department is that by collecting and sharing this data, we're helping to inform the community about the lasting impacts of housing discrimination here in Dane County, establishing a basis for education and action. Our department is proud to be part of this collaborative effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Todd. All right, next will be Rick Bernstein.
Thank you, Chairman Miles. My name's Rick Bernstein. I'm a staff to the Dane County Historical Society, and we put together that exhibit that's out in the hallway. If you want more time with it, it'll be in 13 different libraries between now and February of 2026. I'll be making a presentation at each of those libraries, so I left schedules for the exhibit on the table on the other side. But I first want to thank Todd, Bridget, and Aaron. When I saw their Prejudice in Places or Mapping Prejudice project, it really inspired me to do something more than just find out more about covenants. So I investigated the topic, and the more I looked into it, the more I knew that there was more to educate the public about. And so we got a grant from the Dane County Library Service, from the EVU Foundation, and now from Dane Arts. And we're able to put that exhibit together. It's fairly inexpensive, just those retractable panels. It's easy to move about, but it has a pretty large impact. So the Mapping Prejudice project allowed me to see the covenants on my house. I live in Monona, and the more I looked into it, the more I realized how many covenants there were in the city of Monona. About 600 housing lots were covered with racial covenants. And my driving goal for this exhibit is to provide a historical context from which to view these covenants, and in doing so, provide a common understanding about its history from which we can come and develop a common solution. Sometimes we stand on the shoulders that have come before us to reach new heights. Sometimes we live in their shadow. And it took 100 years of racial prejudice to get to the segregation that exists in many of our communities today. So I want to thank the Dane County Board of Supervisors for taking one more critical step into the light and to propel progress. Thank you very much.
Okay. Rick, why don't you stay there for a quick second? And Tiffany, if you would come around over here, please. Like that.
Thank you.
And Tiffany?
Hi, guys. Good evening. My name is Tiffany Malone, and with Sarah Alvarado, I am one of the founders of Own It, Building Black Wealth. I'm honored to accept this resolution during Black History Month. Today, I want to share how our impactful work within the private sector to address the racial wealth and homeownership gaps in the Dane County area. Own It, Building Black Wealth is a collaborative effort among real estate professionals and the community at large. Our mission is to increase generational wealth in Black communities through home ownership. We accomplish our mission by providing comprehensive education, support, and down payment funds for the first-time homebuyers through aligned partnerships with local organizations like One City Schools, Anesis Therapy, and Central of Dane County. In collaboration with our partners, we offer an education program, the opportunity to apply for $19,000 down payment grants. Since the Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968, the wealth gap has increased, not decreased. Just 13% of Black households in Madison own their homes compared to 64% of white households. We are working to change that. Own It offers the knowledge and support needed to make homeownership a reality. This program includes wealth building and homeownership courses with the racial justice framework that covers financial literacy, credit improvement, budgeting, equity, building, and more. A mentorship program and local resource materials to support learning at every stage of the home buying process and beyond. Most importantly, we provide down payment funds to the home buyers. Understanding that access to money is one of the largest barriers to home ownership, we developed a down payment grants program designed to eliminate common barriers and restrictions, ensuring a more accessible and straightforward path to home ownership. Own It grants have no income limits or upper limits on assets, no sale price limitations or location restrictions, no extra contingencies or special requirements, no payback required, no restrictions on who participants can work with. One of the powerful ways the down payment grants are funded is by ambassadors from the real estate industry who contribute a portion or a percentage of each earned closing commission to the fund. I want to thank our donors, real estate brokers, financial institutions, local organizations, and the hundreds of community members who have committed to this initiative. Your support is invaluable. I invite everyone to learn more about our work and consider contributing to this transformative initiative. Together, we can make homeownership a reality for more Black and brown families in our community, thereby building a legacy of wealth and stability. By acknowledging the impact of explicitly denying Black and brown people from accessing the opportunity to build generational wealth through home ownership in certain neighborhoods or so many decades, we as a community can own up to harm caused and work unapologetically to right the wrongs of the past. We can make Dane County a better place for all. Thank you for taking action with the Mapping Prejudice Project to bring more awareness to historical facts that many people do not have access to. We see firsthand how systemic racism and discrimination within the real estate industry continue to show up in our communities, and we appreciate all the help we can get with work like this to make change happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for the work that your organization does.